नमस्कार। हमारे लखनऊ की तरफ एक कहावत है, बहुत पुरानी, कि झुरमुट में जो तीतर ज्यादा फड़फड़ाता है वो निशाने पे आ जाता है। अब मैं आपको ये क्यों कह रहा हूँ, ये आप सोच रहे होंगे, क्योंकि डिस्कशन तो क्रिकेट पे है, तो ये तीतर और झुरमुट और लखनऊ कहाँ से आ गया। लेकिन इसके पीछे एक कहानी है, और वो कहानी शुरू होती है एक खिलाड़ी जिसका नाम सूर्य कुमार यादव है, उससे। So who is Surya Kumar Yadav? We all know that he played a very fine hand for Mumbai Indians as a batsman, and he wasn't selected for Team India in any of the formats, and it really annoyed quite a few of his fans. And it was fine till then. If you also recall that in one of his 50 plus knocks, Surya Kumar Yadav pointed to his chest and did that gesture of Shah Rukh Khan ki main hoon na, aap ghabraiye nahi, जब तक सूर्य कुमार यादव है टीम को किसी भी चीज के बारे में सोचने की जरूरत नहीं, तब तक सही था। उसके बाद he there was a tweet that came out recently in which Captain Virat Kohli was in some way, it was a meme, but he was lampooned as a paper captain, and there was a person with his back to the camera who was supposed to be Rohit Sharma, and he was projected as an asli captain. And Mr. Surya Kumar Yadav liked that tweet. Immediately, the trolling began. There were a lot of reactions. Surya Kumar Yadav distanced himself from the tweet. Now, what is the message that is being sent? That here is a young player who is yet to get into Team India, and who is he taking on? Virat Kohli, who is easily one of the finest, if not the finest batsman currently in the world. Two, he's a proven aggressive captain. And third, which is last but not the least, he is our captain. He is the captain of Team India. Can you make a dig at a person like this without even proving yourself? Even if you prove yourself, is it the right thing to do? So there are a lot of questions like this, and we will have a larger discussion on the Australia tour, where there are a lot of permutations and combinations which are going on. And joining me is Sandeep Mishra, who's sitting in Himachal at Writers Hill and enjoying life, one of the finest sports editors in India, which I always make a point of saying. Sandeep, welcome to the show. Initial thoughts on Surya Kumar Yadav?
No, I think we are just probably taking it a little too seriously. I mean, I don't take Twitter that seriously. I mean, I was just reading something on Messi. I mean, even he's probably tweeted something yesterday, day before yesterday, that all the blame comes down to him. Anything that goes wrong with Barcelona, whether it's with players, whether it's with the president, the one that recently was ousted, and only recently he was blamed rather for Griezmann's non-performance, and that that the ball's not being passed enough to Griezmann. So Surya Kumar Yadav in the Messi hemisphere that we live in sometimes, and other players, and even Christian Coleman. I mean, we've done a few shows on Christian Coleman, and most sprinters across the world who probably can't even hold a match light to Christian Coleman. I mean, they started tweeting the moment he was under the dope cloud. So I don't think we should take that seriously. I think it's more of a club culture that's slowly come in. I mean, you see this happening across the world in so many clubs where the Twitter is used with a sense of humor. The Twitter is used for also making a point, surely. But I think one should let Surya Kumar Yadav be for what he is, a supremely talented batsman, and somebody who I believe should have been on the tour to Australia. And I think his time will come, and it's time probably in the future where he needs to do his Twitter talk with the bat, rather than keep liking something which sets the trolls off. And we in India now, rather than other countries, I mean, we do believe in trolling more rather than having a definitive opinion on something.
Okay, point taken. And like Rahul Dravid, you've left the ball leave the outside the off stick, and you've let it be, which is fine. I'll also move on. One of the first points is that there is a lot of emphasis on this Australia tour on, firstly, the bowling attack. I'll begin from there because Glenn McGrath has given an interview, and as it happens, the buzz which begins whenever India plays Australia, that the pre-tour buzz, and quite a few of the senior players have their remarks to make. Now, Glenn McGrath makes a very important point. He says that Jasprit Bumrah is the guy to watch out for from India's side, because he's on his day can absolutely finish a match and we all know that, and he is in good nick. Then comes Mohammad Shami, and he talks about the fact that Shami can move the ball very well now. After that is Umesh Yadav, who bowls fast. But as we know, that Umesh Yadav is a strange entity who's been around for a long time, but he's yet to really, really be spoken about in the pantheon of greats, or even as a fast bowler who can win a match entirely on his own. Nothing to take away from Umesh. But Glenn McGrath makes a comparison there and then talks about Mitchell Starc, who he says has an X factor, which means that he's better than the rest of the pack. Then Pat Cummins and Josh Hazlewood. He says these three on any given day in Australia, in those conditions where pitches may have eased a bit, but they can be more lethal than the Indian bowlers. First of all, do you agree with Glenn McGrath?
To a point, yes. I mean, I still believe that somewhere in the bowling lineup that we are taking out there, Bumrah stands out. I mean, he stands out exceptionally, irrespective of the format he's there. Shami is not the same bowler who was 2 years back. So that's I wouldn't say a question mark, but I do have a little bit of a doubt in terms of I'm only looking at the test matches here. So looking at those test matches, I really do have a doubt about Shami lasting it out. So we just come down to one entity, which is Jasprit Bumrah. And if Ishant gets fit, which probably in the next couple of days we will know, I think that's another factor. But the bowling somehow seems weak to me. I mean, we really don't have those 2-3 frontline bowlers who can go through an Australian test side that efficiently as probably the last series. Though, of course, you didn't have those two batsmen out there, Steve Smith and David Warner. But I still believe that the Indian batting will probably hold up. These are youngsters who really want to make a mark. And when I say make a mark, I mean from the kinds of Rahul to Ajinkya Rahane, all these batsmen need to now come good. And if they come good, I think we can put that pressure on Australia, which we probably might see that the bowlers probably don't need to do that kind of a job where the batsman can efficiently pile up such a score where we can finish off a test match. Though I know that you need to get the Australians out twice. Only then you can win a test match. But I still believe in the batsmen that if they can put the pressure, I think bowlers like Bumrah and Shami with that little question mark that I said, can really come up in terms of, okay, we got 500 plus on the scoreboard, Shami comes into his own. But if there's problem with the test with our batsmen, I think that's where the bowlers are going to suffer.
Also, sticking to in this discussion largely on the 4 test matches, where the spinning attack is concerned, there is Ashwin and then there is Kulcha, Kuldeep and Chahal. Now, what kind of combination would typically India need? I would play Ashwin in most of the test matches because of his versatility, because of his track record. Also, the fact that the kind of variations he has introduced is pretty much amazing, which was on display at the IPL. And he's got a strange kind of ultra aggression now, which may not have been there earlier, which is very good for India. And then you have Kuldeep and Chahal, out of whom Chahal seems to be the preferred candidate where Virat is concerned. And to be fair to Virat, Kuldeep has lost a bit of steam somewhere along the way, but on any given day, on a responsive track, the Kulcha factor can be pretty lethal for India.
I think when you say responsive track, I think that's what we are looking at. But somehow the schedule, I don't know, we don't speak about the schedule at all. It's the T20s, the ODIs and the test matches. What if we just flip it around? It's the test matches and the ODIs and the T20s. I think that would have been a perfect format for us in terms, because winning a T20 series and winning an ODI series is not the same as winning a test series. And that's where I think the bowlers, the shuffle of the team, the shuffle by the selectors in terms of the ODIs and the T20s coming into the test matches is going to be a key factor. We are not looking at that as seriously as one should, because it's the same set of bowlers in so many ways who are probably going to be there. So when you speak out of Ashwin, I mean, in terms of the spinning department, I think he is the one X factor who, if he comes up to that X factor billing, can be the crucial node out there for the test team. I think he's experienced now, he's intelligent, he's wily, and he understands those tracks, and he probably understands the Australians. Look at his track record against them at home in India, and also, you know, the track record in Australia in those terms. I think he's the X factor out there.
Glenn McGrath also makes a very important point. He says when it comes to an Australia tour, the fear factor has gone. He says most teams, particularly India, they do not have that fear factor anymore. They do not fear the Aussies. The pitches are a little more docile than before. Possibly some of those great pacers of the past are also not there. But to be fair to the current pacers, where speed is concerned, it's not an issue. Of course, Australia does not have a Shane Warne any longer. They have an Adam Zampa. So you can see the huge chasm that exists today. Young Adam Zampa's time may come, but who can match up to Shane Warne is another question. But I thought it was very interesting when Glenn McGrath said that the fear factor is not there. I still remember Wasim Akram giving an interview, and he said that when they played Australia in a final or in any important match, he said we would lose the match. Of course, he was speaking for Pakistan. We would lose the match in the team bus itself. So those times are over.
Completely. I completely agree with Glenn there. I don't think anybody in this team goes into a test match, goes on a test pitch, goes on to any T20 ODI match on an Australian ground thinking that, okay, the Australian side is much better and this is their home ground. I don't think that's going to happen. That's probably 4 years, 5 years, 6 years back. And we can easily recall back to 2003, Saurav Ganguly's team that set the entire momentum out there. But having said that, I'm looking forward to Rahul. I'm looking forward to Ajinkya Rahane. These are the two batsmen I really want to see come good. And with big runs out there, they have the technique. And Rahul's coming in from a good momentum, even though it's the T20 IPL. But I still feel that he's going to carry it forward. The one batsman I'm really looking forward to making it good out there, to really do something in terms of the talent that he's always displayed in the last 4-5 years, but hasn't come good in that sense, is Ajinkya Rahane. I really want him to come good.
Also, when we are talking about Ajinkya Rahane, there is an interesting that you mentioned him. There is a bit of a controversy building up because a couple of the senior players, former players, commenting here, have expressed the desire that after Virat Kohli comes back after the first test, then 3 tests remain. And typically, since Ajinkya Rahane is the vice captain, so he would take charge. But they want, in fact, they are sort of auto-suggesting that Rohit Sharma should be given that captaincy because he has much greater experience of having led sides and he would be the better bet. Do you agree with that call?
No, I don't think so. And since we are speaking on Ajinkya Rahane, I mean, I have always felt that he's been in this space, which is the no man's land. Is he a T20 batsman? Is he a ODI guy? Is he a test match? I completely agree that you have Virat who can play across formats, but everybody can't. And whether it's even Virat, Virat is a classical test match player, though he performs superbly in a T20 and ODI too. But every cricketer has a certain mold around him, and I think Ajinkya Rahane is a ODI, is a test match player. He's a classical test match player. And let's look at a scenario. I mean, I know most of you would probably laugh or say I'm talking through my hat here, but what if we lose the first test match and Virat is back in Mumbai? I mean, with his family, and then Ajinkya Rahane is captain. I mean, we are assuming here that he's made captain, and he wins the series 2-1. Where does it stand then? I mean, it's a scenario I would love. I mean, I would love for Ajinkya Rahane number one. I would love that there is something happening for the selectors too, because it's very straightforward. I mean, straightforward in the sense that you can't just bring in Rohit and make him captain while you've made Ajinkya Rahane vice captain. I don't buy that at all. And probably that's one reason why Rahane himself doesn't know where he fits into the team. Of course, there have been opportunities for him and he probably hasn't come good in some of them, on some tours. But he needs to be given that kind of a place where somebody needs to tell him that, okay, fine. I mean, for the next 3 series, you're going to be there. You get your runs. MS Dhoni kind of, talk where, okay, you've got 6 matches. Do whatever you want in them. I'm not going to ask you whether you score 0 or 10 or 100 or whatever. But Rahane needs that. Rahane needs this support system where probably I always felt that he never got it. I always felt that he was never pushed enough. I always felt that he was never spoken about in a sense where his talent was equal to the kind of space and the mileage and the amount of talk that we do about him. I don't think he ever got that.
Right. So moving on now, there is Cheteshwar Pujara. So Cheteshwar Pujara is a quintessential Test player. He is the kind of player who doesn't get phased by maiden overs. Like a good singer or like a good actor, as they say, it is the time factor that they dominate. So he is able to dominate time. He doesn't fret about time. He doesn't worry about time. He knows that even if he has a slow session and if he can bat through the day, he can up the ante and he can put those runs on board. That is why Cheteshwar Pujara is there, and he's a perfect guy to drop anchor. So Cheteshwar Pujara, KL Rahul is, of course, the new flamboyant man. And then you have the middle order with Ajinkya Rahane, like you already analyzed. So the middle order will have a very important role to play, and to take the stress off the openers just in case they are not able to kick in and they're not able to get good starts. So who among these three do you think might have a better time, and what is the kind of role which would be expected from them over and above putting the runs on board?
I think Rahane, as I said, I mean, it's time he comes good with the bat. It's time that he gets a couple of hundreds on the store so that he cements a place, and he feels that he's comfortable, and to use a phrase, he's at peace with himself as a test match batsman. I think that's where Pujara's success lies. And the reason he's been successful all this while is not only just his technique, the way he grinds the opposition out, the way he stands on that pitch and he can stand there for 7 days if he wants to, but when you look at Pujara, he's the complete batsman in a sense that he's at peace because he knows this is his slot. He knows that he's been given this test match uh, position in the team where he needs to grind out the opposition. He needs to get those 100 runs, whether it takes 365 balls, it really doesn't matter. I think that's where Pujara's role is going to be huge. It's going to be massive. If he can stand there, if he can get those runs, I think the rest of the team will follow up. I think that's Pujara. Pujara gives a lot of confidence to a team, especially to a test match team. He gives an immense amount of confidence.
Okay. There are at least two quotes here which I would want to run through because it'll give the viewers a nice sense of who's saying what, and they are two very important people. The first one is the Australian cricket coach, the current coach, Justin Langer. He believes Virat Kohli is the best player he's ever seen as he prepares to take on the Indian captain. Well, hopefully they are not as good as last time because they beat us last time, but I know Virat Kohli is an extraordinary player. He's probably the best player I've ever seen, says Langer. His leadership, I've never seen an athlete with as much energy as he's got. I wish I had half of Virat's energy. The way he bats, the way he feels, the way he captains the side, he's tough. He's a really tough leader. Now, so here he's talking about a modern India captain who has shown a lot of aggression, and we all know what Virat does on the field. He doesn't like to take any prisoners. He's tough on his own side. He wants success. He's hungry for it. But let's not forget a gentleman called Saurav Ganguly, who redefined India's approach towards playing on a cricket field as a captain, who pushed the Aussies on Australian soil, who would make Steve Waugh wait for a toss, who tried quite a few other gimmicks to basically show that India meant business. He brought in more professionalism. And ultimately, what I truly loved about Saurav Ganguly was that he had that attitude that I can and I will nail you. That was missing till then. So how do you sort of analyze the transition of captaincy from a Saurav to a Virat?
Well, I still remember 2003, the test tour. I mean, always felt that Saurav's arrogance was equal to aggression. So, he was a natural when it came to arrogance. I mean, that prince thing was not something that wasn't taken seriously by him. I think he always thought he was a prince, in that sense. So that came onto the ground, and somehow a lot of players at that time took him as a natural leader. And he was a natural leader. When you see him in the commentary box, he's leading from the front because the way he speaks and he's factual and he's not afraid to speak his mind. And that's what came across in the captaincy. I don't buy that about Virat because Virat's energy, and somehow energy is not equal to leadership always. I mean, you can be prancing around the whole stadium, the whole pitch. It doesn't translate into leadership. One can also look at the quote of a certain Gautam Gambhir who believes that he's not a great captain. He's not a good captain because he hasn't won an IPL title. Though winning an IPL title is not also equivalent to being a good Test match captain. I think Gambhir probably has an issue with that, and they have always had a issue or a problem. I mean, you look back at the 6-7 years, and Gambhir always had a swing at Virat in through Twitter. I mean, Twitter gives you that opportunity nowadays. But yeah, I mean, Virat coming back is going to be a difficult void to fill, simply because you get used to a certain captain, you get used to a certain leadership. You certainly follow this team follows Virat, irrespective of what Surya Kumar Yadav does on his Twitter handle. This team certainly follows Virat. And when a captain like Virat, who's been successful in the past, who's done great things with the bat and with the leadership, of course, then that void becomes very difficult. And that's where, whether it is Rohit or Ajinkya Rahane, whoever comes in, these are tough shoes to fill. They're not easily filled also, because suddenly you are left with 3 Test matches. And then what do? You need to, because the pressure's on you completely. And the pressure is not just the fans, the pressure is not just the selectors, the pressure is also Mr. Virat Kohli sitting in his Mumbai home watching the Test match. So you're already under pressure from the captain who's at home, also watching you. I mean, I'm not saying this loosely, this really happens. I mean, because that pressure is immense, because, Ajinkya Rahane can handle it. But for Rohit, if he becomes captain, let's assume he becomes captain and he loses 3 Test matches, it's not going to be easy to come back. It's not going to be easy for him to just say, oh, I was just given these Test matches, now Virat can come in. No. Rohit Sharma is a guy who's won IPL titles. He's taken this Mumbai Indians team to a very different level. And that's where this pressure of these 3 Test matches without your natural leader who's been there for the last so many years, not being there is going to be huge, huge for these 2 guys who might come in as captain. That's where Virat is going to be a tough act to follow, at least in those 3 matches.
I know there's a lot of stuff to discuss, and we'll do that next week. But before we wind this up, I want to come to one significant quote, which is from none other than the great Ricky Ponting. And he says, referring to the India team after Virat goes back, I don't think they'll be clear in their own mind even now what their batting order will look like for the first Test. Who's going to open? Who will bat at 4 when Kohli goes? What do you have to say?
No, I think most of these are mind games being played. I mean, they always do that before the team arrives in Australia. And it's something which is, of course, it's there. I mean, I think Ricky actually knows the batting lineup that's going to be playing out there. I mean, he's had enough experience with the Indian team. He has had enough experience being a coach in the IPL. He understands Indian players in and out. So for him to say this is purely a mind game, I think the selectors are very clear. I think the Indian team is very clear on that. You're not going to see any surprises. I think Test cricket is not going to give you any surprises. You might see a few surprises in T20s and the ODIs, but I don't think in the Test match we will see too many surprises. I think the batsmen are very clear, as we said about Rahane or Cheteshwar Pujara or Rahul. I think the lineups are very clear. There's not going to be any major changes that's going to surprise anybody out there.
Okay, we'll leave it at now. We will come back with some more interesting pointers as this series develops. The first ODI is on 27th, as we all know, 27th of November, which is not too far off. And the teams are warming up. The mind games are already on. And Sandeep and I will keep coming back to you and dissecting other interesting points about what could be the team combination, the progression of the Test matches, and of course the great point the moment of transition, that when Virat Kohli goes back after the first Test, what happens next? And like Sandeep said, what if India lose that first Test, which is a day-night Test, and then Ajinkya Rahane, whoever is the captain, wins the series for India? What happens then? And like he also very interestingly said, that Virat Kohli will be watching from Mumbai. That pressure is on, so maybe he'll be on the phone to Ravi Shastri or to the captain himself, giving his point of view. All of that makes for a very juicy battle. We'll be back again. Thanks for watching.